Most Uber drivers get nervous in heavy traffic, road rage, aggressive drivers, unpredictable situations. But not this one. He moved through the chaos like he was navigating a battlefield, calm and calculated, every decision deliberate. The passenger watched, fascinated, until he caught sight of the ring. Navy SEAL. Suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't just driving, this was tactical maneuvering. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we dive into this story of hidden expertise and unexpected recognition, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today, and if you believe the stories of invisible heroes deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. David Chen was one of the city's highest-rated Uber drivers. 4.97 stars, over 3,500 trips, 0 complaints. Passengers left him reviews saying, professional, safe, and quiet. To them, David was nothing more than a reliable driver who did his job well. Every morning, David prepared his car with military precision: interior cleaning, fuel check, tire pressure, emergency kit inspection. The routine reminded him of the old days. Back then, he'd done the same pre-mission checks, but that was for saving lives, not transporting passengers. His driving style was different too. He saw everything at once: side mirrors, rearview mirror, surrounding vehicle movements, potential hazards. He kept his hands on the steering wheel at the 10 and 2 position, back straight. Passengers assumed this was just good driving habits. David didn't like to talk. He'd give short answers to questions, never sharing more personal information than necessary. When passengers asked, "Going home from work?" or "How's airport traffic?" he'd respond politely, but wouldn't extend the conversation. Most passengers respected this as professional distance, but David's silence had other reasons. Every conversation could lead to questions about his past, and his past wasn't the kind you told stories about. David Chen had made the hardest decision of his life 15 years ago when he decided to become a Navy SEAL. His family had immigrated from Taiwan, and he'd grown up in San Francisco. College graduate, engineering degree, bright career ahead, his decision to join the military surprised everyone. "I want to serve my country," he'd told family and friends. But the real reason was more complex. David wanted to test himself, push his limits, find out how strong he really was. SEAL training was hell. Only 12% of his class finished Hell Week. David didn't just finish, he finished at the top. Instructors noticed his composure, analytical intelligence, and ability to make decisions under pressure. His first deployment was Afghanistan: special operations, night raids, covert missions behind enemy lines. David's specialty became infiltration and intelligence gathering. He could get into the most dangerous places and get out without being detected. His second tour was Iraq. This time, even more critical missions: capturing high-value targets, rescue operations, dismantling terrorist networks. David had become a team leader, commanding an elite 5-man unit. His third and final tour was the event that changed his life. During an operation near the Pakistan border, they'd been ambushed. David's team was pinned down under enemy fire for 4 hours. Radio was down, no support coming. David alone had used 3 different routes to get his team to safety, crossing enemy lines 3 times. That night, he'd saved all 5 men. He hadn't lost a single one, but the psychological cost of the operation had been heavy. David began to feel that war was changing him. He'd retired in 2018. PTSD diagnosis, 3 years of therapy, adjustment period. David struggled to adapt to civilian life. Normal jobs felt boring, office environments felt suffocating. The constant state of alertness continued. His first job was a cybersecurity position at a tech company. Good salary, comfortable working conditions, but David was unhappy. The hours spent staring at computer screens all day overwhelmed him. The lack of adrenaline, lack of purpose, absence of the feeling of service. He'd quit after 6 months. He tried part-time jobs for a while, did some consulting, but none of them felt right. Until he started driving for Uber, driving around the city, brief interactions with different people, being his own boss. This appealed to David. There was no traffic stress because he'd dealt with much more difficult situations than traffic, no road rage because he knew what real danger was. And most importantly, he was serving people. Every passenger reached their destination safely. Maybe it was a small service, but it was meaningful to David. The car suited him too. 2019 Toyota Camry, reliable, economical, inconspicuous. David had chosen it carefully, not too flashy, but high safety standards. That Thursday evening, San Francisco traffic was worse than usual. Giants game had ended, mixed with rush hour traffic, plus road closure due to construction. Perfect storm. David's passenger was a young lawyer working at a downtown law firm, Michael Torres, ironically, the same last name as the retired Colonel Torres. From the airport to downtown, estimated time 45 minutes, but with traffic it could be 1.5 hours. Michael had gotten in the car while talking on his phone. Business conversation, case details. David wasn't listening. Passenger privacy was part of his professionalism. He just focused on the traffic. The first 10 minutes were normal. Stop-and-go traffic, everyone irritated, horns honking. But David was calm. He checked mirrors, analyzed surrounding vehicles, visualized alternative routes in his mind. When Michael hung up his phone, he began to notice David's driving style. It was different from other drivers. No panic, no aggression, but not passive either. Every movement calculated, every decision strategic. "You don't seem bothered by traffic at all," Michael said. "Part of the job," David replied. "Getting upset doesn't help." Michael continued observing how David evaluated gaps between cars, which lane he changed when, how smooth his braking and acceleration were. This was tactical level driving. Just then, a car in front of them suddenly braked. An aggressive driver behind started honking, made a sudden lane change, tried to get into David's lane. David's reflex was automatic. 3 simultaneous movements. His foot moved to ready position on the brake pedal, his left hand slightly turned the steering wheel, his eyes checked the side mirror for the position of the car behind. All happened in 1.5 seconds. The aggressive driver couldn't get into David's lane, honked angrily in frustration. David showed no reaction, calm, professional, in control. "Wow," Michael said. "How calm you are. Most drivers would be losing it right now." David shrugged. "Experience." Michael was getting curious. This wasn't an ordinary Uber driver. His reflexes, spatial awareness, stress management, these weren't learned things. They were skills that required training. 10 minutes later, a bigger test came. As they approached the construction area, an ambulance siren was heard, coming from behind, but there was no room in traffic. Cars were stuck. Nobody could move. David immediately analyzed the situation. Left lane closed, right lane construction barrier, middle lane packed with cars. But David saw a solution. He turned on hazard lights, slowly moved right, signaled to the cars behind him. Then he coordinated the 2 cars in front. One moved slightly left, the other slightly right. In 30 seconds, he'd created a corridor for the ambulance. The ambulance passed. David returned everything to normal positions. The entire maneuver took 2 minutes. Michael's mouth was hanging open. How did you do that? Where did you learn this level of traffic management?" David was silent, but Michael was really curious now. Michael focused his attention on David's hands, how he held the steering wheel, finger positions, wrist posture. Professional level technique. Then his eye caught the ring. At first it had looked like just a men's ring, but when the light hit it from a different angle, the details became clear. Navy SEAL Trident, eagle, anchor, pistol, and trident, unmistakable. Michael's heart raced. He recognized this ring. His father was a Navy veteran. He'd grown up listening to military stories. Only elite warriors wore the SEAL Trident. "Excuse me," Michael said. His voice had changed. "That ring, Navy SEAL." David's hands tightened on the steering wheel. No one had noticed for years. "Yes," he said quietly. "How long did you serve?" 12 years, Michael bowed respectfully. "Thank you for your service." Silence formed between them, but this time it wasn't awkward silence. It was silence filled with respect. "Now everything makes sense," Michael said. "Your driving style, traffic management, staying cool under pressure, you've had tactical training." David smiled for the first time. "Old habits," Michael. "May I ask what operations you were in?" David. "Most are classified. But Middle East, several years?" Michael. "You driving for Uber now. That's quite a career change." David paused. He hadn't had this conversation in years. "Adjustment is hard. Civilian life is different. Different adrenaline, different purpose." Michael. "But you're still serving. You're transporting people safely. That's valuable service too." Hearing this perspective was good for David. For years he'd been looking down on this job. But Michael was right. This was also a form of service. "Michael, does your family know about your SEAL background?" David. "They know. They're proud, but they have trouble understanding. Why I left a high-paying job to drive for Uber. Michael: because money isn't everything. Purpose is more important. Exactly. David had been looking for this word. Purpose. When he was a SEAL, he had clear purpose. Now he was searching for the same clarity. Michael: I work in law, but it's not fulfilling. Money's good, but there's no meaning. Your courage is inspiring. An interesting role reversal was happening. The elite warrior was now seeking inspiration, while the young professional was giving him wisdom. When they reached the destination, the conversation was still continuing. The 1.5-hour journey had led two strangers to an unexpected connection. As Michael was getting out, "David, I want to ask you something. This conversation taught me a lot. Maybe we could grab lunch sometime. I'd like to hear more veteran perspective." David was surprised. No one had been curious about his perspective for years. "Sure, that would be good." Michael handed him his business card. "Also, our law firm has a veteran hiring program. If you're interested, we could talk. Security consulting, risk assessment, your skills are valuable." David took the card. For the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful about the future. Michael: "And David, next time I need a ride, I'll specifically request you. You give the safest ride in the city." As Michael got out of the car, David saw his reflection in the mirror. For the first time in years, he felt pride in himself. His SEAL identity wasn't a burden, it was an asset. His skills hadn't stayed in the past, they were creating value in the present. That night, driving home, David felt different. He was still an Uber driver, but now he saw this job differently. Every time he safely delivered a passenger to their destination, he was accomplishing a small mission. And Michael's job offer, maybe it was time to start a new chapter. 6 months later, David was working as a security consultant at Michael's law firm. Corporate security, risk assessment, crisis management. He was using his skills in the right place, but he still drove for Uber on weekends. Because now he knew this wasn't just transportation service. Every ride was an opportunity to connect with someone, to serve, to use his skills in a meaningful way. And every time a new passenger got in, David showed the same professionalism. Because you never know, maybe that ride would be the beginning of another unexpected connection. Because real warriors never retire. They just change battlefields. So I ask you, have you ever encountered someone like David? People who seem ordinary but carry extraordinary backgrounds? In Ubers, taxis, the service industry, who knows how many invisible heroes live around us? Share your experiences in the comments. Tell us about those unexpected moments. Because here at Invisible Valor, we know that the greatest heroes often remain invisible. If this story inspired you, share it, subscribe, and help these voices continue to be heard. We'll see you in the next story, and until then, remember, your next ride might be with a legend.